created, and you're not duplicating, but you're replicating great practices. Building a scalable budget plan, making sure that you know the two different types of budgets that you got to build. One of them being your operating budget, that's your whole budget, and the other one being the line item budget that you're asking for that grant. And then having your 5Ws so that your grant writing team is ready to work with you. And that's going to be your assignment going forward for when you are going to meet the next time with Dr. J here is when you're working with Dr. Cooper, you want to have your 5Ws. And you want to have to, and with that 5Ws, that's your first page. Remember that first 5W page that we went through? Make sure that you have the answers for all of that and that you have the statistics to back it up. You've got your 30-second speech to where when somebody asks you about your program, you're leading out with statistics, not putting that at the end of what you're talking about. You're leading out so that you can get people who are in positions of power to listen to you because you know how you're going to be the answer to their problems. So we're going to move straight into the grant writing. And this is a sample test. Oh, I do want to show you this. This is the areas that we covered, and this is a checklist that you can use to make sure that you have done everything that you need to do to be ready for grant writing. It's everything that we just covered. It's a really good checklist to help you know that your business is in order. You've dotted every I and crossed every T. Okay, so we're moving into the grant writing, and the things that we will cover, even though we're going to do it in an abbreviated format. First things first, what grant writers should know: locating grant opportunities, the B4 grant writing canvas, and those are the most important ones. Grant writing practicum, and your grant writing, the implementation canvas and the management canvas. Your scalable grant budget, we're not going to go there because we covered the project budget in the last one, so you know what a project budget is. And then tools and tips. So I'm going to skip to what I feel is most important. This is number one. There are 3 tips that you need to know in grant writing. Organizations give you money to do what they want done, not what you want to do. They give you money to do what they want done. Number 2, you will only get 1 of 3 answers from funders. Yes, no, or maybe later. And all no's can be turned into a yes. All you have to do is correct, go back, ask again. So yes, no, or maybe later. Number 3, the only guarantee in grant writing is that if you keep writing, you will eventually win. That is a guarantee. But you can do some things to help yourself get closer to winning. I'm going to skip some of these because you can read that and get a good understanding. We've already talked about the 5 types of collaborative partnerships, but if you forgot that, it is in this book. We talked about setting up some of your organizations and having your board members, your advisory board members, and your stakeholders. So I'm good. What we did not talk about is this, so I'll talk about this right quick. You want to make sure that when you are developing these partnerships, you get your support letters that says, I'm not giving this organization nothing, but I support what they're doing. Some of you might give each other those. And you might get some memorandums of understanding. The memorandum of understanding says, I'm going to work with you and I'm going to provide you this. Or we're going to contract together because you're going to provide me this or that or the other. So that's the memorandum of understanding. So you want some of both. One is just a pat on the back. The other one is an exchange. The letter of support is a pat on the back. The memorandum of understanding is an exchange. So this is that canvas for that section. Wait a minute. This canvas, I want to show you 2 pages that kind of breaks this down. Well, I'll do it right here. Okay. So this is how you write grants. This is your whole grant on 1 page. But if you continue to go through here, you're going to see all of this stuff broken down you're gonna see all this work now. But I'm starting here just to expedite time. And let's see if you understand what I'm trying to teach you from this canvas. If not, we'll go to the regular page. There are 4 sections of any grant. And all 4 of those sections is on this page. Section 1 is your executive summary. It's the executive summary. So let me show you what your grant is gonna look like. Any grant that you write is gonna have this information on there. They're gonna ask for, number 1, the executive summary. Number 2, the narrative. And you might want to draw this out. For those of you who can draw better than I can, because I can't draw a straight line with a movie. But for those of you who can, you might want to draw this out. The narrative is going to be the longest part of any grant. It's what causes you to get funded. But on that narrative, there's 5 areas over here. I'll put them like this. But they're actually in columns. So under the narrative, and there are 2 sides to the narrative. There is, let me move this down just a little bit. Because if you understand this, you understand all of grant writing. Over here, you got the program. And over here, you got what the management is responsible for. So in your narrative, which is number 2, you've got your program side, that's these first 5. Your goals, your inputs, outputs, outcome, and impact. All of that is over here. That's why I say it's really in columns, but if I make 5 columns, it's gonna be too small. So that's why I wrote it down here. But it's really those columns. So you've got your goals. Your goals is what you're gonna do. Your input is how you're gonna do it. Your outputs is when you're gonna do it. What you're gonna do, how you're gonna do, what you're gonna do. Now, your outputs and outcomes are all related. What you're gonna do is related to how you're gonna do it. This is related to when you're gonna do it. And this is related to how many are you gonna serve in doing it. And this is what the results is gonna be. If you can answer all those questions, that's your whole grant. But you should have answered that when you were doing your 5 W's. You're not saying anything different here than you said your 5 W's. Okay. And then as you look down here, there's number 3 and number 4. Number 3 is your budget. And number 4 is any attachments that they ask you for. This is everything you need for a loan, a contract, a grant, or any other time that you're asking somebody for their money. There's 4 areas you need to have in your proposal. Your executive summary, which is the story, which is the 5 W's. Your narrative, which is the story that expands the 5 W's. The narrative is not saying anything different than you said up here. The narrative is saying exactly the same thing, you're just expanding it now. You give them an abbreviated version here, and then in your narrative, you break it down, telling them what you're gonna do, when, and all of that. And then you give them a budget as to what it's gonna cost. And your budget should be broken down, 60% implementation, 30% salary, 5% evaluation, 3% sustainability, 2% marketing and dissemination. That's your whole budget. And then attaching any document, only the documents that the grant asks for you for. So you got your 5 W's, your story that you're telling, your cost, and your proof. Your proof is your 501c3. Your proof is any audits that they ask you for if you've had an audit. Your proof is the fact that you have an engineering degree. Your proof is that you have certificates to do whatever you said you're gonna do. Those are the 4 things you need to write any grant. So what you're gonna do is, in the narrative, since that's the longest part, you have your, what you're gonna do is your goal. Your inputs is how you're gonna do it. What you're doing, when, how you're doing it, when you're doing it. Daily, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually. Are you doing mentoring, whatever it is that you're doing, how often are you doing it? You can't do just one thing. I just want to do an event. Nobody's gonna fund that. Now, you'll get some of your foundations that might fund a one-time event. But if you're trying to get to millions, you're not gonna get that for a one-time event. Whatever you're doing has to be able to be something they can track. So it has to be a whole year. So what are you gonna do hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually during that year? And then how will management evaluate it? So how's it gonna be evaluated? How are you gonna track it? And then what are your, what's the percent of increase and decrease? So we said we only have 2% of Black women who are able to leave an inheritance to their children. We're gonna increase that to 3%, or we're gonna serve 100 women and we're gonna increase it for those women to 3% or 4%, whatever it is that you choose to say. That's your impact. And then it's gonna improve the community for all, because those kids will have, their children will have some inheritance or will have a better life. Then we move over to this side, which is the management side. Everything we just talked about is, that's your whole program. This left side, these first 5 is your whole program. These other 5 over here is your management side. This is every grant in the world. Every grant. It's just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every grant, every contract, every proposal, this is it. So over here on the management canvas, you got your timeline. What is the timeline for implementation? What are you gonna do first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? Then you got your management. Who will manage the program? What are their credentials and how much will they be paid? And then your dissemination, how will you get the word out? How will management inform the stakeholders of the program? The people, you say you're gonna serve 1,000 people, how are you gonna get the word out to those 1,000? That's what that is. And then your sustainability. How will you manage to pay for the program when the grant is gone? Annual fundraising, grant writing, events planning. That's your sustainability. Everything that you're doing over here has budget associated with it. If you look down here at the bottom, and you will have this in your book, if you look down here at the bottom, budget starts here, under the output. Your supplies and travel. Budget is here, supplies and contracts for the outcomes. The reason there's no budget here is because this is where you're just planning and doing your goals and your team is coming together. There's no budget there for that. There's no budget here because this is, you're just listing what your partners are gonna provide, who they are and what they provide. This is my app on one page. This is how my app works. It reads these events and all these questions. And then it creates the grant for you after you answer them. So then, the budget that you need for down there at the end is built in here. So this is the difference between my logic model and every other logic model that you see. My budget is built right in the logic model because I used to hate doing budgets because at the end, I gotta figure out what is it gonna cost me. Well, when I'm doing mine right now, I'm figuring this budget out all the way through. I know what the budget is for my output. I know what it is for my outcome. There is no budget on impact because we're just saying what percentage of people are gonna be successful. There is no budget on the timelines because we're just saying what we're gonna do. On the management, there is budget because we gotta hire full-timers, part-timers, volunteers, contractors. We got a salary, we got a fringe benefits contract, hiring, training, postage. We got some of those things we gotta pay for. So there is budget there. So as you are figuring that budget, when you get to the end, you'll be putting that budget over here. On your dissemination, you've got budget, because you've got your IT people, you got your tech people, you got communication team, you got your media PR people, because you must toot your own horn when you're a nonprofit. You've got your events planners, because you're gonna have these events. You got your executive assistants, and a lot of people forget these costs. But if you use this page, skipping all them other pages that I just skipped through to get to this one has everything. But for those of you who are needing to go back and look at some of the other things that are in there, well, actually, you're gonna go forward, because I put this one moved up. But in your real book, it's at the end. So your sustainability. How will management pay for the program when the grant is gone? That's the question they're asking you. So all the questions that any grant is gonna ask you are on this page. Any question that any grant, any contract, any funder, any bank for a loan is gonna ask you is on this page. What will the organization and collaborative do to develop, improve, increase, or decrease the problem or the need?
This is almost like a business plan that you can take in bank or investors to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's business, it's nonprofit, it's you gotta be able to answer this.
I'm in class.
Register on
I'm
the
gonna get back.
sustainability, what's the
Okay.
difference, for
And
example,
we'll
if
be
I
done
say
in like an
I'm
hour or
asking
so.
for-
Maybe a
for
couple
the
of
skill
hours. I'll
program,
call you
like,
back.
what would be, and
Okay, bye.
it's all about everybody volunteering and everything.
Mhm.
So I don't see it income outside of the grant, so what?
Your board is gonna continue to support you and do fundraising. You are developing, your students will develop apps, and those people that you're developing apps for will support, because there will be some funding. So you're gonna have to learn where your funding is. There may be t-shirts, you have a creative name like the Red Flight, those,
Look at the Stephen Aarons.
not the TV Airman, it's the, Red Tail. Red Tail in Kansas City. So they sell their Red Tail shirts. So they raise money from their shirts, come up with some creative shirts. So that's how you sustain your organization. And you're gonna continue to you're gonna continue to do fundraisers. That's how you're gonna do it. You're gonna continue to write grants. You're developing a grant team. You're hiring a fund developer. That's what you're doing. You're hiring a fund developer that's gonna help you continue to raise funds.
And it's written in part of the sustainment strategic plan, like on that part.
Yes, that's your sustainability. That's your sustainability plan. Just how you're gonna keep going. You don't have a definite answer. It's just things that you found. But remember this over here. Remember Chat GPT and all of them. You're gonna come over here and say sample sustainability plan for STEM in 2023. Sample sustainability plan. So if you have no idea and you don't have my app, you use that. This right here, if you don't remember nothing else, please remember this, because this will help you find whatever you need for whatever you need for whatever you need it. It don't matter whether it's about grants or anything else. One thing about this class is it teaches you about life. That's why these corporations are calling me in to listen to what they're saying and then give them what I think. Because my thing is to disrupt status quo thinking. That's my goal in life at this point, is to disrupt status quo thinking. Use that. That's your asset right there. That's one of your assets. That's gonna turn whatever you're doing into cash flow. Can you use it?
Yeah, absolutely.
High five.
I'm really good.
Okay, so, great question. So, let me say it like this. Is there any question up here that you need me to explain better? Because almost every question up here, you will be able to answer. If there's anything, let me know now, and I'll explain that. because I've just given you how you write a grant. This stuff is not important. What I covered earlier is what's important. This is just the result of you getting all of your ducks in a row, dotting all your T's, crossing all of, dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's. This right here is where you take everything that you gathered and just put it on that paper. That's why I have to spend so much time with the getting ready. A lot of people don't want to do that work. But once you get ready, putting the stuff in the grant app only takes a few minutes and it spits out your grant. Same with you writing, because when you get ready to write this down, if you have done all of that homework, all that work that I asked you to do on the who, what, when, where, why, and all of that, you got the answer to every one of these questions. Remember, this is not just business. This is when you need to make a decision in your life. Because everything that you do, whether it's going to college, whether it's starting a business, whether it's going, whatever you do, has some cost. And you have to figure out what that cost is. For every decision you are making, there are some costs associated with it. It may be your time, it may be money, it may be a combination of time and money, it may be having to walk away from your friends for a little while. Everything has a cost. So this right here makes you think about not only grant writing and business development. That was the reason I was giving the information yesterday, because you have to get rid of the junk in order to get ready. And then that brings you to this, which is the easy part. This is the gravy. 4 sections for all grants, businesses, everything. For raise fund development. The executive summary, 5 W's. Narrative is the story. But it's the same as the 5 W's. You can't say nothing different in the narrative than what you said in the 5 W's. The who, the what, the when, the where, the why has to be the same. But you're gonna explain more about your statistics and that kind of thing. On the 5 W's?
Repeated but not repeated,
What's that?
using the 5 W's and then using the 5 W's in the story and then in the program as well, without it kind of duplicating.
Oh, it's gonna duplicate. It's gonna say the same thing.
Same exact thing.
Your grant has to be repetitive. You might phrase your sentence a little different, but all the way through, you got to say the same thing.
Okay.
You cannot say it different. So you're serving your who, you are, I'm Dr. Barbara Wright. I provide training and education for fund developers. I have a quarterly, and I might say some statistics that supports that. So that's basically what I'm doing. But when I break out into the narrative, I'm just explaining more. Dr. Wright has an AA, BA, MA, whatever I have. I'm putting all that stuff in there. I've taught thousands of classes on grant writing and served so many people and raised 150 million in grants. Whatever it is that I do, it just breaks it down. But it's the same thing that I said at the top. I'm just adding a little bit more to it.
On the budget section, we list, like estimate costs, or does it have to be the exact whatever MSRP, if for like the materials or whatnot? So, like things fluctuate, and by the time you submit, your grant proposal, and then you actually have it, you know, prices might differ, is that a big deal?
Not really, because you can explain that to the funder if that happens. But if you're not sure, remember when I said you need to know your NTEE codes and your NAIC codes? There are some sample budgets out there in your area. There in your documents, there is a link to a website called bizstats.com. 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 If you go to bizstats.com, go there. Go there for a second. Go there for a second. bizstats.com. If you go to bizstats.com and put in your industry, it will give you a sample budget. Those budgets are for-profit budgets. You need to use those codes that I put up here for a nonprofit, but it at least makes you think outside the outside of the box to know what your budget is. But bizstats.com will give you a budget. You put in how much money you're gonna ask on the grant, and it'll break it down for you, give you a line item budget. Yeah.
So that, right, so in our cohort, when we're reviewing grants, proposals for each other, That's really what we're looking for when we're reading to them, say, hey, making sure that they did this wire framework and putting everything in there.
Right, and as you go through the grant, all of this stuff is broken down. So that's moved up here because we needed to kind of go through things fast. But this is what I'm showing you up here. It's all in here and it's broken down to where you can easily get it. Yeah, so you can do, so when I do my 16 weeks, that session that I'm doing, that you're kind of doing here, that's why they have to pay $6,000 for it. So he's doing good
So
here for
that's
y'all.
what I've been listening to the last month and a half, this is the super cadet.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
You know.
Yes, so say thank you.
What's the question?
So, the B4, I call it my B4 grant writing system because there's 4 sections for any fund development. I don't care if it's a contract, I don't care if it's a grant, it's all the same. It's these 4 sections. Your executive summary, if they ask you for a letter of intent, I just did a $13 million letter of intent to put solar panel, to open up a solar panel factory. It's the same 5 W's. When you get ready to do the narrative, you're not saying anything different than you said in your 5 W's, you're telling your story. So all of this stuff is here and it's broken down. I'm just giving you the quick version. It's all in your book. So when y'all meet, really, you can meet 52 weeks and cover a page at a time and, you get through the book. Or you can rush it up and do a couple pages at a time. The books are my 30 years in the streets. This is my street learning that I put in these books, and you're not gonna find this anywhere else. The goals for a grant team. Now, I did not have that up here, and this is important to cover. Your grant team, your first goal as the leader of your organization is to develop your collaborative partners. But you can't develop your partners until you develop your 5 W's. Because if you don't tell your partners what you want to do, they're going to take you down another way. So you have to know what your goals are. And then that way, everybody else can follow you. But if you don't have no plan, your team is not going to follow you. They're going to come and you telling you what they're going to do. So once you get your 5 W's, then that's when you call your collaborative team to the table. This is what you want to do. And that's how you get the right board members. That's how you get the right advisory board members, because you got your what? 5 W's. Right, so that's why I say that's your first start if you want to really do this cohort. Okay, develop your narrative. Your narrative is also called your what?
Story.
So you're going to use your collaborative team to develop your story. But your story is based on what? 5 W's. Because if you don't know where you're going, nobody's going to follow you. And then develop your protocol of implementation. How are you going to get this done? You got your team, so this person's gonna do this person's gonna do this person's gonna do this. Those collaborative partners on your team. And then the last one is the Nike, just do it. Just do it, implement it. The federal government sometimes gives $500,000 to do the first 3. They only want you to plan. If they want you to implement, they'll tell you. And when you get ready to implement, all you're gonna do is go back and do what? Get what you created with your collaborative partnerships. This is every grant, this is every funding, this is business plan, this is for-profit, non-profit, LLCs, and everybody else they can think of. This is how it's done. I use some of this to help my son with his church. It works for everything. So everything that, you're scared to write your executive summary. You got in your plan how to write it. 2 to 4 sentences. What is your project? What is your purpose of funding? What statistics support the reason that you're establishing it? Everything is right here. It's written out for you. All I gotta do is answer the question. It even tells you how long the answer should be. Everything is here. So I'm sorry we could not go through all of this. Remember, this is a 16-hour course and we're doing a crash course on needs assessment and problem statements. This right here is your narrative. Now, instead of 2 to 3 sentences, how many pages, how long is it? 1 page. And if you click this, it takes you out to where you can get your stats. I'm gonna show you this one, and I am working fast. We are almost done. I'm done in about 5 minutes. So you need stats. You just click where you need stats. Oh, I should be able to see. and it will give us, along with all the advertising, it'll give us, start breaking down stats of DC. But that's only one of them, because all through this thing, there's stats. All through here, you're gonna find stats. And I did it by state, so that not only are you, this is for the fund developer, you don't have to just work with DC. If you become a grant writer, you can write for anywhere, using this very book. That's why I don't apologize about my pricing, because I'm giving you $100,000 business in this book, up to $1 million business in this book. Remember those problems that I said we can address? Here's another one. Wherever you see need or problem or whatever, there's probably going to be some places where you can go in here and get those stats. Here we go. If I put in DC, it's going to give me all the stats for DC. So you're not having to reinvent the wheel. It all comes up. It's all in your book. This is why I know more about the cities than the people that live there. Probably got to put some more information in here than that. Your supporting stats, and then this is how you're answering those questions. Everything I talked about.
That makes you really impressive when you're walking in the mayor's office and you're going, well, understanding if you, the strategic plan that you're trying to do this, and the stats, oh yeah, and that's why they, yeah.
Yeah, I'm an information junkie, that's why I've never had to apply for a job. Resumes, bios. Most of the things that get people, that makes people not be able to get a grant is because they have a hard time getting a resume. This right here will build resumes for you. For your people, they don't have, a lot of lawyers, doctors, they haven't written a resume in years. They've been doing what they do. This will build a resume for them in just a few minutes, and so that you can go ahead and get the grant submitted. If they're asking for a bio, a lot of the lawyers, when I ask them for a bio, they give me an obituary. So I put the bios in here so they give me the right kind of bio. So all of that information is here. Now, you can do these activities on your own in your book, breaking down that executive summary. This makes it bigger for you to be able to kind of understand how to write your answers in. It puts a question up here and then you just answer your goal 1, goal 2. Goal 1 is related to this, is related to this, is related to this. Goal 2 would be related to that. But if you only have one goal, you don't worry about the rest. You only do the one goal. It depends on how many goals you have. That's why you shouldn't have more than 3 goals. If you got more than 3 or 4 goals, you're not gonna get funded anyway because they know you don't know what you're doing. Because for every goal, you gotta have inputs, you gotta have outputs, you gotta have outcomes, you gotta have impact. So if you start putting a whole bunch of junk down, they already know you don't know what you're doing.
And those should be suspended for that particular grant, right?
That's for that
Overall
particular,
mission.
not your overall mission for that. But the reason that you do a template is so that some of the generic things about your organization is already written. It should align to your mission. Whatever you're doing should align to your mission. But each grant is going to be a little different. You might be doing this time, and the next time you're doing that. So some of your grant is going to be tweaked. But after a while, your grant is going to be you almost write the same thing every time. That's why the 25th, my client got her award, her final award, and then Monday, we wrote her next grant. Because now I can do another grant next week for her if I wanted to, because we basically got her template and information down on paper. That's the beauty of grant writing. We talked about this budget planning already, so I'm going to, and so this is the end. I had moved it up so that you could see it earlier. But this is that same document I just showed you. The only thing I'd like to discuss is the commonly attached documents, your letters of support, your memorandums of understanding that you've gotten with the organization. Sometimes they ask for a 501c3. Sometimes they ask for your list of board members. That's more than not, so make sure you have your board members. Your key staff and their bios, credentials, the operating budget, the project budget. Sometimes they ask for an audit, sometimes they don't. And your budget.
Would the audit, if you haven't done anything, would the audit be,
You won't have an audit.
just NA or?
They might ask you to get a fiscal agent. And what a fiscal agent does is a fiscal agent covers you because they have had an audit. And so, because they have had an audit. So They would get the money and they would pass the money to you. They get 7% of the grant. You get all the money except that 7% that's going to them because they covered you.
A payer and a payee situation.
Yes, yeah. So it's your money. Whatever you said that you were gonna do, they have to adhere to what's in there. But they serve as your fiscal agent because they have the accountability status. So sometimes to help minorities, they will do that. But if you can make them believe, like we did for Crystal, even though she's brand new out the gate, if you can make them believe, then they will go ahead and say yes sometimes. And the feds don't really require the audits. It's the little foundations that require that. That's why I decided to go on around them and go on to the top. Last thing, very last thing, promise. This is how we're gonna find these $1 million grants. Now, somebody help me with this. I want to increase the size of this thing because this is too small here. Okay, not quite that big. I need at least big enough for you to see it. Okay. Okay. I want to teach you something that's not taught, and I know it's not taught, so I'm going to teach it in here. I want to teach you how to filter these federal grants so that you will be able to find it. Today, they are giving out 2,584 grants. That's how many grants is in your system. But if I look over here to the left, in the filters, I see forecasted grants. We don't want forecasted grants. Those are grants that's coming out later. I only want the grants that are available right now. So if I put, what do you want me to put in here for the keyword that I'm looking for? What kind of grant am I looking for right now?
Education.
Education might be too wide, so.
Agricultural.
Everybody wrote it. Everybody wrote it.
There are 1,344 grants in agricultural development. So then we go down here and we see how many of these are grants. Some of these are contracts, some of these are procurement agreements, some of these corporate agreements, some of these are procurement contracts. So I'm getting rid of all of that except for grants. I'm only interested in the grants that are available. I'm also going down here and I'm looking to see what is my eligibility. Do I have a 501c3 or are you a small business or 501c3? Which one are you gonna be when you apply for this? Okay, so we're gonna look for the 501c3. If somebody did before me, organizations that do have a 501c3. So that brings us down to 454 grants. There's still a lot of grants. And then, you know, we can see if there's any other thing that we want to filter for. But instead of doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the magic. Here's the magic right here. It's export detailed data. I really generally only do this. And let me see where I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put it in my desktop. Export detailed data.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna save it on my desktop amongst the other thousands of things with this. And I'm gonna go here. And here is a list. But I don't just want this list. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete the things I don't want. I want column 1. I don't want column 2. I want column 2, I just don't want column 2 right now. And I don't want column 3, I don't think. So I'm going to delete these columns. I want this column, I want this column. I don't want their names yet, but I'm gonna want them later. I just don't want them now. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm building me a template that I'm going to print out. I want these later once I figure out which man I'm going after, but I don't want them right now. So you delete all the columns that you don't want. And let me see if I can make this bigger right quick. I'm going to delete the close, no, I want the close date. Don't want the posted date, because I don't care when it was posted. I don't want the updated date. I don't care really about that. You might keep some of these. I don't want the synopsis. I don't want any of this. So I'm gonna delete all of these columns and just leave the columns that I really want. Now guys, this is a class in itself, but because I'm not here, I'm trying to give you as much as I can. And you have a lot of this in your book. You don't have this because this is another class, but you have a lot of everything else. Let me see if I can move this over. Okay. So now, this is what I actually want up here for you to be able to see. This gives us our close dates, but and let me see if I can bring it over just a little bit. Yeah, but there's some particulars that I want you to deal with on that. He's thinking faster than I can move these keys. So that's what I want to do. I want to go over here and I want to sort this largest to smallest. That's where our grants are. I mean, that's how many grants are given out, because that's important. This is really not my first one. My first one is which ones are given out millions of dollars. So I think I deleted one of my columns that I should have kept. Let's see, yeah, I think I deleted one of my columns. Let me go back here. But you're beginning to see what I'm trying to bring to the table here. I think I might have deleted one column that I should have. Maybe I did. Maybe I did. Okay. I'm gonna go back to that. It looks like somebody knows where I'm going already. Okay. So I want to know how many grants are they giving out. So I'm going to go ahead and sort this again by largest to smallest. And so this grant here is giving out 3,000. This one's giving out 2,000. And I've already filtered it so that I'm looking for agriculture, development, or whatever. I've already filtered it. And so I would go down to about here. I don't want anything less than that. But I'm also going to go here and I'm going to sort because I want to know the amounts. So this is going to require that you play around with this. You want to know how many grants are they giving out, and you want to know how much money is in that program. Now, how much are they going to give out? Divide the amount that they're giving out by the number of grants they're giving out. And then let's say you want to go take a look at the grant. Well, let's take a look at this one that's giving out 2,000 grants, because more than likely I can qualify for that one twice. So some of these grants will let you apply for 2 different programs with the same organization. Wow. Here it is. This tells you they're giving out 2,000 grants, but they're only giving out 9 million. So I wouldn't be interested in that because there's not enough money. So if you take 9 million and divide it by 2,000, that tells you how many grants they're giving out. So I'm just not interested in that one because the amount is so low. But if you are already funded, if you definitely want to do something in this area, can you go ahead and go after this one? They're giving out 2,000 grants. They do require a match, because I'm looking down here. Who can go after this grant? Nonprofits that have a 501c3, Native Americans, cities and townships, public and state controlled organizations, county governments, and others. They can go after this grant. So this is how you filter. The better you become at filtering.
What's the name of that grant?
Eligibility.
Eligibility
at the yeah, I have to stop.
This one actually is not like what we wanted. This is firefighting, equipment, training, and wellness. So if you're training firefighters in wellness, if you're training firefighters in, some mental health, this is kind of mental health. So firefighting equipment, training, and wellness. This is one I'll give my son because he's a sheriff, and he's making shirts encouraging search for them. So this is something that someone who's doing that might want to get in on. But it's firefighting equipment, training, and wellness. Now, I'm not sure exactly what. Now, this one does have a match.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking out the box. So you can fit making t-shirts into that description?
You probably can, depending on what the t-shirts are doing. Because it says wellness. It says wellness. So, yeah, it depends. You gotta blow up the box in this business. You cannot be in this business and not blow up the box. Yeah. You gotta blow it up, because it said wellness. So wellness is what got me. Yeah. It says wellness. That's all I'm saying. What you do, are you doing wellness? Who's doing wellness? Somebody else? Okay, yeah. So it's the wellness.
We can request some birth management for firefighters.
Yes. Yeah, you
So-
good. You good, because that's wellness. Wellness is everything.
Oh, yeah, the original, where we did the original sort, and I could sort by health and wellness, and then pull up all
Yes.
health and wellness.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
can
and
break
then
it
you go
down.
in there and filter it down to the ones that you wanna go after. And then you print those out. But when you print them out, you have to make sure you print it out as an Excel spreadsheet, because that's how you can go and pull these up. Let's find one more, and then we're done. Here's another one. If you keep it in an Excel spreadsheet, on that first column, you can just click it and it takes you right out to the grant.
How did you do that? How did you go to the X, how did you make it into Excel?
It automatically does it for you.
She
But
actually
when you
data.
save it, just make sure you save it as an Excel spreadsheet.
You
Yeah.
know, we pull data off the internet, and you can do like that C file, Excel, or some type of format that the data goes in. Yeah.
Save it as that. Save it just like it comes up. Don't change, because I've changed mine to Word changes, and then you won't keep this. one. And you have to keep the one directly from their site, because if you try to save it in your own Excel or try to send it to somebody, I don't think the links hold. Y'all got some kind of security stuff in there or something. I don't know what it is, but it don't seem to hold. This one right here is given, the maximum you can ask for is $1 million. The minimum you can ask for on this one is $50,000. This one is for business, commerce, community development, education, employment and labor training, health, infrastructure, investment and jobs, regional development. Everybody in here qualifies for this one.
And it's just learning medicine too.
Yeah, they're giving out 100 grants. The number to remember on this one is 10.855. That, and also 10.855 if you want to go after this one. And the opportunity number is RUS, R-U-S, capital R-U-S, -23-01-DLT. That is the opportunity number on that one. It is for business, it's for community development, it's for education, it's for employment, labor and training, it's for health, it's for infrastructure, investment and jobs, it's for regional development, and they are giving out 100 grants.
So with infrastructure, that could also include a building or a building plan.
Yes, in that case, it does, not necessarily a building. Infrastructure sometimes is Wi-Fi, putting up lines, and it just depends. You have to read the grant more to figure out what it is that they will pay for. You have to read it a little bit more.
Now Comcast is giving out free, quote unquote, internet service.
Right, that's the grant I just wrote and submitted Monday, because they're not getting enough people. So they need some people in the community who know these people. So that's why they're giving out grants.
So see, that's what we used to think about doing in some property in Nashville, is creating a type of rural hospital initiative we had talked about, where you put that infrastructure in for them to transport data from the bigger hospitals. That's a grant for that.
On the wings, the workforce development, education, all that, I could add rural to the bottom of that, because they're pouring money into the rural areas now.
Especially for the Midwest.
Yeah.
Because they're not,
We got-
they're underserved.
Okay, so, but one caveat for this grant, 64 million is what they're giving out. So if they're only giving out 64 million, everybody is not gonna get what? So if you wanna know the average of what they're giving out, you take the 1 million and you take the 64 million and divide it by 1 million. And what do you come up with? No. 640,000.
Yes, 645.
So the average person is gonna get 640,000. But that would be a grant I'd write. Why? Because you're probably gonna get it for 3, 4, 5 years. You're not getting it one time. You're gonna get it 3 to 5 years. So therefore, it's gonna be over annuity. So that's how I determine whether I'm gonna write a grant,
How do you expect ongoing?
because federal grants are all ongoing.
Oh, they are.
Most of them are all ongoing. They don't want no one-time program, they gotta make sure they keep a job.
So you will know how often you'll get it or how often it comes around? or-
Well, what they're gonna do is they're gonna tell you whether it's competitive or whether you have to actually apply every year. So you don't automatically get it. If you get that money and you go buy bubble gum, bazooka bubble gum with it and don't do what you're supposed to do, you're not getting it again the next year.
Will they tell us there? How-
How many years? Yeah, once you read your Bible, because this package right here, you can only get it if you're registered on grants.gov. But sometimes down here, you can force it to go ahead and give it to you even though you're not registered. So here is the Bible for that grant. Dr. Wright can't tell you any of that. This right here is what's gonna tell you what they're giving out, when they're giving it out, what's the criteria, all of that.
What was the acronym we used for that? When they're giving you specifics on it? It was RT,
Oh, I'm sorry, RFP, request for proposal, but it might be IFB. There's probably some other acronyms too, so don't just think RFP. RFP is just one,
okay.
but they might call it FO, funding opportunity, FON, funding opportunity number, something like that. No, that's funding opportunity number. They call them different names, so don't just assume. But what you want, let me give you the right name for it. The grant instructions. Whatever they call it, it's the instructions for the grant. As I take my seat, and thank you all for this opportunity to be able to share it with you. There's tricks in these RFPs. These RFPs are probably written by the IA or somebody. So everything is not in these RFPs. If it's a construction RFP, generally there's somebody they want you to go to buy the construction equipment. So you've got to look for the trick. Every RFP on the federal side, there's generally somebody they want you to support because somebody went to the White House to lobby for that grant. And if you don't buy their equipment, if you don't use them, if you don't do whatever, you're subject not to get the grant. So don't just read this few little pages and think I got everything. Whatever links they tell you to go out to them so you can get the rest of the story.
Especially if a congressperson put in a budget for that particular fund.
Yes, I have not seen it happen any other way at any other time. So
What do we need to know about accountability? As far as, if
Oh,
you get this amount of
after
money,
the grant, right?
yeah, you get the money, what do you need to do to prove that you spent it on this, and this?
You're,
Say,
well, when you're writing that evaluation, remember what I told you about the outcomes and the impact? That's where you're telling them what you're gonna spend that money on.
How do they know that you actually did that?
Because they're checking, they're doing an audit of, and you're keeping your receipts and you're entering everything in a database. Now, they used to depend on you to write it down, but now in most cases, they're having you enter that into a database to where it's going in there every month as you do it. So that now they're only giving you the money by quarter.
So they do
So
a
if you
quarterly
mess up that
report.
quarter, they ain't giving you no more.
So it's like a quarterly
Yeah.
report.
It might be quarterly or it might be monthly.
I just want to know
Yeah,
how I need to document that.
it's in that RFP, it's in your instructions. Everyone is different.
I don't think I know what a complete, grant proposal looks like on application. You just fill out an application.
Go through your book because I gave you a lot of examples. There are a lot of examples, but if there's anything not in the book, sample grant for undeserved in 2022. Sample grant for anything you feel like you don't have, but I guarantee you everything you use in that book. Sample grants, everything, it's all there, it's all there. But if you do find that you don't find something, then you go back to the ancient Chinese secret.
Information or ideas.
You should probably do this anyway.
Yeah.
But because it gives you up-to-date information. I had a guy that bought my book and 10 years later, he was still using that same book because it's kind of it's digital.
Well, y'all, as we come to this close, again, I want to thank everybody for coming. We want to do a group photo for the Washington cohort. And then the last, I'm going to put my number up here.
my email address, so everybody knows how to, contact me. And, can we all give Dr. Barber a hand? We're gonna do the photo and then Harold, for those that wanna stay or go, he's gonna just give us a quick overview on, sacred geometry, some of the some of the individuals asking about. So if we can come together and do a group photo, that would be good. If we can do it up front, that would be good. We are plugged in.
Hey, my name is Lonnie Cooper.
No, I'm doing.
I'd like to meet with y'all.
That's right. I got a million
You can erase some of right there, that's on the table.
I know.
So we want to, we definitely got to start on your we got your ideas.
I'm usually up front.
Well, we
Yeah, well, just know we're gonna support you. Yeah, we emphasize. We don't take it over there. Especially with those circles, we don't make sure we get that. Just let me know if there are any of those other revenue streams.
A memory
Like
is that.
I said, it's not a sales pitch. You see, did you see the connection? Especially as an educator.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of other things you could be on, and that's the reason why. We done. A lot of people. I'm sorry. Hold on to the picture.
I'm supposed to be the bad one.
You have designated children on that.
So we're gonna get in front of you.
You're too tall.
I'm not too tall. I'm long.
Aren't you supposed to be in the center?
I don't think so. Am I supposed to be in there?
Well, yeah,
I know that he was saying you guys.
everybody say, write some grant money. Grant money. More grant money.
Not working for free in 2023.
Oh.
You might as well
Grant money. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought you were trying to say we was from the cow town. You didn't want me.
So we got the picture in there.
You wanna talk about the
You
app?
ready to do that?
Yes, I do.
But I don't know how I get my program that they buy. I wouldn't give you a demo like.
Sure, sure.
The, ISP provided that we provide our
Sure.
Some people thought we say we want to get rid of it, took it off, and they can't restore it exactly right. But we end up back up on the So,
Also, you got it.
yeah, most of it, I'm going through the functions, some of the functions that work.
You gotta,
Well,
I have that. But I'm wondering,
depending on who you got, I pay for that a monthly service, so if something wrong, they can bring it back to now. So I'm gonna make them pay more money back.
cause I always leave without my car.
They can come back and drive it like for us. But, I mean, so,
Is that a?
yeah, we'll pay for some there.
We'll get her,
Right, you just have it done back up. So we can sign it into it. Yeah, I have it back about weeks.
703-899-0499. And that's Jay Cooper at brhcservices.com. And I'll confirm the email when you send it, send it in your contact. And I have everybody email, so I'm gonna send out some stuff from that email and you'll have my email and contact him. So. sure you got it on there.
So y'all ready to be multi-millionaires now? Million ain't enough, I can tell you that now.
Put it here.
You don't put no right there.
That ain't no money.
Well, can you screenshot that in case it don't say?
Yeah, I don't write codes anymore, I'm in the dirt, so.
Like, I'm not good.
Football player, I'm wondering if it's, the one that graduated from FTSU.
What's his first name?
Tyrone?
I think, yeah. He got 13.
He got a 4 safety.
Okay, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, he wants me to help him. I haven't agreed, but, yeah.
You might wanna agree now.
So I know he was a good person, you know, he was saying.
Oh, was he a good guy? Okay.
It's Lolita,
You
but.
got a good reputation at school.
Oh, that's
Is
good.
it coming
That's
through?
really good.
But you put a point in there telling the alumni some expensive money.
Well, I got your card, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Don't mention me when I talk to you. I couldn't talk to him until after I did this, so.
You wouldn't know when I graduated long after, before he.
Oh.
I know him because he played football.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I know he's supposed to have 13 rings or something like that. Yeah.
Now, if he went to school, if he went to science,
I'm like,
I
I
think
think
my name still ring over there after 50 years.
before I know it, I'm gonna know something about it.
Okay, y'all, hand it over here, let's go ahead and get that quick.
Go by the State University?
And Tyrone is, I'm sure that's him.
Yeah. That's where he went to school then.
Yeah, but, yeah, he's in my phone.
I got him.
Let me look at this.
Pick the blue, please.
You go, Dr. Barber, you gonna go over that quick?
Pick the blue. I can't. Pick the blue. She said pick the blue one, yeah, that's, that green.
Alright.
I have to look it over, get to some of my eyes.
Most all of us are. He's only young
That's
on
why I
that,
said
those
some
two.
of us.
I'm over that, I'm over
Okay.
the hill now, officially.
Oh,
I'm sliding
okay.
gracefully. I can say that now.
Alright, so let's take a geometry. That is the, patterns. Patterns that are repeatable.